Good day and welcome. I'm Derek Fildebrandt, publisher of the Western Standard, and you're watching The Pipeline. Today is January 28th, 2026. I've got the usual lineup, but not entirely. We've got one additional one from us, and Cory Morgan coming from elsewhere. We've got, as usual, Nigel Hannaford, former opinion editor.
Hi, folks.
Dave Naylor, senior news editor.
Good evening.
And joining us for the first time with The Pipeline, David Wiechnik, Western Center business reporter.
Thanks for having me.
And coming to us from an undisclosed location on a luxurious, warm compound somewhere in the Empire of America is Cory Morgan.
Hey, I'm a little overdressed today.
You are rubbing it in. You are sitting by a pool with a tan already. You son of a bitch. You are rubbing it in. Okay. It was just yesterday we had, there was a huge rally and petition signing event held at the Big Four on the Stampede grounds in Calgary for Alberta independence. This is almost certainly the biggest independence rally in Alberta history. We'll be talking about that event, the media's coverage of that event, and where things are going in the effort to get a referendum launched in Alberta on independence. And the loyalty pledges. Don't let me forget. We got to talk about the Nenchi's loyalty oaths that he demands of the UCP. But first, we're going to start with what's coming up. Beginning tomorrow here in Calgary, going all the way to Saturday, the Conservative Party of Canada's National Convention is in town, held every 2 years. Members get together to vote on important things like constitutional resolutions and policy resolutions. Mostly they get together just to drink. And this time also, though, to vote on the leadership status of Pierre Poilievre. I'm not sure how the rules are set right now, if they have to face it no matter if they win or lose an election. I know in Alberta, win or lose an election, incumbent premiers still have to face leadership review. I know it wasn't the case for the federal Conservatives. I'm not sure if that's changed or not. But obviously, Pierre Poilievre did not form a majority government. It has to face a leadership review. And that'll be coming out. Dave, which day of the convention is the leadership review?
I think the voting starts on, is it Friday?
Yes, I think it was Friday.
Yeah. Dave, Pierre Poilievre facing a review to see if he gets to keep his job this week.
Yeah, it's important to note that all members of the Conservative Party do not get a vote. It's only those who show up in Calgary. So expect several thousand of them at the BMO Center, as you said, Derek, arriving Thursday night. Hospitality suites open, policy discussions throughout the day on Friday. Keynote speech by Pierre Poilievre. Voting opens on Friday, and I would assume they'll put out the release on or the number that he got on Saturday at some point. There's no specific time set for that.
Nigel, despite I was chatting with a guest we have in the office today, about 2 hours ago. He was saying, "Oh, what's all the media is saying? Oh, I don't know how Poilievre's going to do." I mean, that's not that we haven't done stories like this, but those are a dime a dozen speculation stories. Like, is there going to be an election? And sometimes it's a legit. Like we had a column the other day. Hey, there might be an early election. Sometimes it's legitimate speculation.
Another one today, by the way.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. And then sometimes it's just a slow news day, and if a columnist has nothing to write about, what's the go-to you can always do? Should there be an early election? Number two is, are they going to keep their leadership? In Canadian federal history, I think only 2 people have ever lost a leadership review in Canadian history. That's John Diefenbaker, for who the process was created, and then Thomas Mulcair. Normally, a leader knows going into a convention if they're going to make it through, and they save themselves the indignity of losing outright. We had the funny situation in Alberta with Jason Kenney. It's complicated, but no one, I don't think, is actually predicting Poilievre lose. I think the question is, how strong a level of support is it? Joe Clark set the unofficial bar at 68, 69%. If you're below that, well, you probably, if you can't get more than that with your own party members, you probably are not going to earn the trust of the broader public. How do you think it's going to play out?
Well, I have no doubts that Mr. Poilievre is going to get such a strong vote that all of this will seem very academic next week. I have no problem predicting that he'll pull in over 80%. There is nobody else. Nobody else is organizing. And so if they were to turn him down, then there'd be this big question. Well, what's this about? What are we going to do now? We suddenly go into a leadership race for which the party's totally unprepared, either in organizational terms or even intellectually. So the question really is what is he going to say in his speech, which, by the way, I see is on the schedule here for 6:30 on Friday night. And what is he going to say? I mean, he can either just give the usual thing, or he can condemn Mr. Carney, which he's already done in his response to Carney's Davos speech, or he can be forward-looking and put out a vision that people haven't heard yet. And I think you heard some. I think we got a bit of a taste of what he might have when he was saying in his response to Carney's Davos speech, that just pointing out some of the hokum in that speech. Talks about the trade agreements. What stops us from growing our trade? It's not the trade barriers they impose on us, the Americans, but the trade barriers we impose on ourselves. Liberal laws like C-69 and C-48.
He mentioned supply management in there, right?
Yeah. I'm not going to.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. He did not.
No, he did not. I know you're joking. Let you wear it. We're gonna hear some how we're gonna do things differently, and that's what's going to be the story out of this. That's the story they want.
So do you think he's going to say Canadians on a nice house on a safe street under a proud flag guarded by a good military? A line that it was ad nauseum.
That seems familiar.
Yeah, hopefully he comes up with something new.
Cory, what's going to be in his speech is interesting. I was discussing this. The individual was visiting us here today, and I know his go-to line was they'd always got the biggest applause from the moment he launched his leadership race. I remember his leadership race came to Calgary. They had an event down at Spruce Meadows, just packed the place. And when he said, "And we're gonna defund the CBC," the place would go crazy. Now, I thought he would stop saying that once he had the leadership. And to his credit, he did not. He kept on saying that all the way through until about halfway through the election campaign. And he says, he stopped saying it. It was no longer at his rallies. When asked from the media about it, because it was like the first time he would never talk about it. He said, we'll get to it eventually. It was always going to be like, this is the first day kind of thing. We're going to shut them down. We're going to sell the buildings and, make it affordable housing for Canadian families. I don't know. Is he going to start talking, and then he backed down on getting rid of the media subsidies, more or less saying, I'm not going to get rid of them anymore. I'm just going to make it available to everybody instead. I don't know. How well would that kind of stuff sit where he had backtracked on some of his positions? It seems to me that, once, this is nothing original I'm saying, but Justin Trudeau's resignation, he kind of lost his mojo. Carney stole, a fair number of chunks of his platform. Obviously not everything, but he stole some of the big things, like getting rid of at least the consumer carbon tax. How is Poilievre gonna get his mojo back in an important speech like this?
Yeah, I'm not sure how he's going to do it, but he's going to have to change some things. As you pointed out, all those things he said were excellently received when he was running for the leadership, as well as going into the last election. He knows how to speak to conservatives, and I suspect, as Nigel's saying, he's very comfortably going to win the leadership review. I mean, most of the people who think that he's at risk, those are pundits we're hearing who are from outside of the party. They're hoping for some intrigue. They're hoping for some upset. But he's also obviously realized that he's not been able to reach that mushy middle of Canadians. And us, we certainly would love to see the demise of the CBC, but even if we might not like to admit it, that's not a top of mind issue for most Canadians. I wish it was. It really should be. It's $1 billion a year down the toilet, but that's not what's got to grab him. So I'm guessing he's going to have a measured, the leadership race will be, or the review will be behind him. The campaign kind of to try for a few years from now to win the next election starts. And it's going to be modeled. He's in Calgary. He's strong here. He doesn't have to worry about reaching out to those conservatives. He's already got them. He's got to figure out how to reach that mushy middle, particularly in central Canada. And we'll see how he models his approach and which issues he wants to take on. He can't try to carve out of Carney's thing, going on the offensive with the Americans or the trade deals. But at the same time, that's that vulnerability that won the last election. So where can he say he's standing up for Canada, yet not throwing rocks at the United States? It's going to be a very carefully crafted speech. I think he's going to be reaching for people outside of the Conservative Party now, rather than the bird in hand he has right now in Calgary.
I think actually to your point there, Cory, when it comes to, he points out that it doesn't matter what Mr. Carney says. We live right next door to the United States. We do 90% of our business with them, about 8 times what we do with China. You can't just turn that around on a dime and start doing something different. He made that point in his response to the Davos speech. So I wouldn't be looking for anything other than we've got to fix it up with the Americans somehow. And Trump's only got 3 more years.
David, I was just, kind of making fun of early election speculation columns, but I think it is reasonable speculation right now. One poll has got the Liberals at 47%, which is damn high. I mean, I don't really see the need for an election. I think Carney is going to get his majority without an election. I don't think he needs an election to get a majority. You got, these very demoralized New Democrats sitting there. You could look to a conservative MPs who are, at the end of their political career or something, and they can say, whatever, I'll take a cabinet spot. And maybe I don't get reelected because I'm in a hard conservative riding, but, that's a good way to finish my political career. Then I can go lobby. Or conservatives in marginal seats who are fearful of losing their seat as a conservative, maybe they'll actually have a better chance as a Liberal because the Liberals are higher in the polls right now.
I agree with that.
He might get his majority one way or another, but there is some serious speculation, and I don't think it's unfounded, that he pulls the trigger in the spring. He's doing pretty high in the polls. A lot of normal people I talked to who just couldn't stand Justin Trudeau's face and his voice, the bar was set so low that they're looking at Carney and saying, well, he's a grown-up. Yeah. He shows up to work with his pants on, and he comes on time to the office. And he has a chance of getting a majority here. But if that happens, and Poilievre was to lose, I think, it's been a while since a conservative leader, I think the Mono-Conservative Party of Canada has only actually had one leader be allowed to lose an election and contest another. That was Stephen Harper in 2004. But that was a brand new party, and they brought them from majority to minority. There was progress. But no one else has even gotten 2 kicks at the can. Poilievre is almost certainly going to get 2. But if he doesn't make it at the next one, which could be as soon as this spring, he's probably toast at that point, right?
Oh, I would assume so, yeah. What are the Conservatives polling at right now? Because I saw something, it was, 36% or 38%?
36 and 38 is what I've seen.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. So, yeah, early election, I think maybe the Liberals could possibly get another point or two and definitely get a majority government. Because, there's a lot of people that talk about the Conservative leadership in Poilievre, and they don't like Poilievre. And they wouldn't vote Conservative just based on him from some of the people I've talked to. So I don't really know leadership-wise. Obviously, like you guys said, that he's going to obviously get his leadership review. He's going to get probably over 80%. But on the offhand chance, the 20% that he doesn't get the leadership bid and they hold an early election, what do you think would happen then?
Well, I think there's no way he's going to lose this leadership review. I think the bare minimum he gets is 75. The bare minimum he gets in here is 75.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if it was lower than that.
I would be too.
But is that good enough?
Yeah, exactly.
So when you've got 25% of delegates voting against you, can you honestly go forward as the leader and say, I'm the best choice for this party?
I think he does better than 75. 75, 77, 78 is kind of a kiss of death number, at least in Alberta. That was the number Stelmach got. He survived the leadership review, but he was ousted within a year. It was the number that Alison Redford got. She was ousted within a year. So you get to fight on, but not necessarily for that long if you get those kinds of numbers. I think he's probably going to get higher than that. So I think he gets through this weekend unscathed. Probably not with the numbers he would otherwise expect, like into the 90s. Like, what was it Danielle Smith got? Like 94, something. And there was apparently an organized effort against her that obviously.
So one of the things here, Derek, is that if you're really against Pierre Poilievre and you live in central Canada, it's going to cost you a lot of money. $1,000 for the conference alone, plus hotels, plus airfares, plus your wife, double times everything by 2 to get here to do what? To say, I don't like the guy.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people who don't like him will probably just watch from afar.
Important in that, in particular, is the interesting choice of timing for Doug Ford's Ontario PC Party convention this weekend. It's being held at the same time. They've known the timing of the Federal Conservative Convention forever. And then the Ontario PCs intentionally booked the convention at the same time. I think that it's well known. Doug Ford wants Pierre Poilievre gone, probably wants his job. It's been very obvious. He was all but campaigning for the Liberals in the last federal election. But I think they knew that they couldn't out-organize Poilievre. They couldn't beat him. So this was a way of saying, well, we're obviously not even trying. We're doing our thing at the same time. But it does mean it probably strengthens Poilievre's hand a bit, because Ontario delegates make up 1/3 of the delegates at the convention. And the hardcore Doug Ford guys are much more likely to save a few bucks and go to the Ontario PC convention this weekend rather than spend a bunch of money, come out to Calgary, get yelled at by people just to register a vote against Poilievre. So I think
should be like for that, they would be held.
Yeah. But anyway, I think the choice of timing for the Ontario PC convention is going to strengthen Poilievre's numbers a bit from Ontario. Okay. Anything else for the convention you guys want to touch on? No. Okay. It's funny because it is going to be held not in the same building, but on the Stampede grounds. The Conservative Convention, I think, is at the BMO Center on the Stampede grounds, right?
Yes, it is.
Also on the Stampede grounds is the Big Four. And yesterday at the Big Four,
Monday.
Monday night. Was it Monday? Oh yeah, yesterday was Tuesday. Sorry, Monday evening. David, you were on the ground for the Western Standard there for a big independence rally. There was people lining up long before to sign a petition for to get a referendum on independence. Tell us about the event.
Well, I mean, what can you say? It was absolutely historic. I mean, the turnout, I think the official numbers came in, I think it was 4,900 and some people. They counted just under 5,000. And yeah, they had, I think people were lining up, I think at 10 o'clock in the morning. It opened at 11 to sign the petition. I think one of the organizers told me there was 750 people already lined up at 10 a.m. to get in, waiting an hour. And then it just was kind of just progressive throughout the day. And I asked how many signatures they got. They wanted to release the actual numbers, but it had to have been in the thousands, because I went down to where the 150 canvassers were and it was packed. And this would have been probably at about 5 o'clock at night. And it was absolutely packed. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they got several thousand signatures from that alone in just this one event. And it was, yeah, probably like you said earlier, it is the largest indoor independence event that's ever been held in Alberta history. The biggest one's actually the one that they had at the legislature in Edmonton that I think got about 14,000 people. But yeah, this was unbelievable, really. It was just great to be there. It was a historic night. And I can't believe that Cory didn't actually get there, of all people.
Well, I know it ate me up. I mean, talk about a part of history, but I've got to keep the stability of my marriage in mind versus my political loyalties. And if we passed up on our trip to the South in January for me to go to a rally, Jane probably would have gone without me. But I'm certain there's going to be more rallies. I mean, the strength of this is just striking. That's the first of, we got months of campaigning that's going to happen. There's going to be a referendum coming up. I mean, the signatures are just going wild. There's no doubt they're going to pass that bar. I would suspect the organizers are going to be planning some huge rallies, because then you can start using outdoor venues again in May and June and getting into fall. And kicking it off like this is something else. I mean, yeah, as a longtime independence advocate and person who worked on this for longer than I like to think. I mean, the largest really famous one, if people remember, there's a picture of Doug Christie with the Western Canada concept. I think it was 1981 at the Jubilee Auditorium, and he had his hands up, and it was a photo that went across the entire nation that something was building in Alberta. And this rally blew that out of the water with the turnout, and only because the room was full. I mean, if they could have booked the Saddle Dome, it would have been interesting to see just how many people would have gotten up and come out to this rally. We're seeing something really unique building up right now, and assuming the organizers don't blow up or something, it's only going to get stronger.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible event to see the room looked totally packed. Dave, did you watch the video from there?
I've seen Dave's videos. They were excellent. Yes.
I don't know what stood out as the main. highlight?
Well, just the overwhelming number. You know, I don't think there's no doubt they're going to get enough signatures, right? There's absolutely no doubt about that. So behind the scenes, if they want to succeed, then they need to be making their plans on the day that the government announces the petition is passed, that somebody comes out and becomes the leader of this independence thing.
Yeah.
Because right now you've got petty squabbling between various people who are all claiming to be leaders. To me, none of them right now are going to win the day. So they need to, you know, I've said this before. They need when the petition is ratified by Elections Alberta, they need to have a press conference and say, this is our leader. And I would hope they're smart enough that those discussions are going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, Nigel, this seems to be the big question hanging over it right now is leadership. I'm not sure it could just be anointed. Maybe it could be. Hard to say. Normally, you know, when we have had Quebec referendums in the past, the natural leader is the Quebec premier. You had René Lévesque, and then you had No, Lucien Bouchard took over after because the premier Jacques Parizeau was he was not going over very well, and so actually on paper he remained the leader of the yes side, but they made Lucien Bouchard chief negotiator or something, and he became the de facto leader, the de facto spokesman. But you had a clear political parties from which to draw on. The UCP's membership is dominantly pro-independence, not uniformly so, but dominantly. There are UCP MLAs who support independence, but it's very quiet. There are UCP cabinet ministers, very quiet. It's not really they're not really out there publicly. Some have wink, nudged more than others, but you know, we're not really able at this time yet to draw on the political class. Danielle Smith has said, it's for the Alberta people. I'm staying out of it. I'm staying neutral. The other side is going to be have at least the pantheon of leadership. It'll be very entertaining seeing Naheed Nenshi, Thomas Lukasik, and Jason Kenney have to share a stage on the Federalist side with Antifa supporters. We got a story coming out on that. That'll be fun. But on the pro-independence side, you know, the politicians, politicians are naturally risk adverse, and this is a risky political position to take, to come out and say, yes, I'm pro-independence. You're not going to see federal Conservative MPs do it because they're in the Conservative Party of Canada. There are certainly some who sympathize, but they can't come out. They're sitting in a Federalist party. So it'd have to come from the UCP. So we don't have the natural reservoirs of political talent to draw on that the Federalist side does. And we don't have the natural reservoirs of political talent that they do in Quebec, where you have the PQ, you have the Bloc. I'm not sure where this is coming from, but if we don't figure this out soon,
it's all for nothing.
It's all for nothing. Because and there's some good folks involved right now, and you know, some of them I like more than others, but I mean, they're all generally trying to pull in the same direction. Some of them tend to let their own personalities, I think, dominate things more than they should. But they're trying to pull in the same direction. But there's no clear, recognized leader at this time. If the movement does not figure that out, it's got no chance of success.
Right. So really, what tends to happen in other successful examples of the genre is that you have a political conference. You get all the people together, and you try to decide exactly what you're going to do. It happened in the early days of the United States. It happened during the French Revolution. There's a number of precedents for this, but you get all sides out there. They actually have a if they want it, they have a constitution courtesy of Bruce Party, who wrote up an Alberta independence constitution. Probably wouldn't satisfy everybody, but at least it's a starting point.
Well, that's for a state. I'm like for the movement, for a yes side of a referendum campaign, and you need all the groups.
This is the point you're making. That unless we know what we're going to do with this when we get there, then it could be all for nothing. Sure, a bad idea to have an idea whether at least we're going to be a monarchy or a republic. Some things like that could be settled fairly easy.
Monarchy, and I'm the king. That's simple.
Well, there we go.
But I actually, that stuff I actually think is best done after. You do that in a constitutional convention. You get people to agree on the independence or not. I mean, if we started arguing now about are we a constitutional monarchy, are we a republic, these things, you lose.
I gotta disagree with you. Sorry, Nigel. But if I'm being offered independence, yes or no, I want to know what independence looks like.
Yeah.
I want to know whether you're going to support the monarchy or not.
But
I want to know what you're. I know. Of course, they don't have the authority.
No one has either. It's not even a government-led initiative. This is a citizen initiative petition. So unless it's like the referendum would have to be then adopt this constitution or the status quo, not independence, because the premier is not even openly campaigning. So there's absolutely no way to. We can have discussions about, monarchy versus republic and these kinds of things, but there's absolutely no way you could do that. You have to decide first, well, do we want to be independent? When the United States, when the Continental Congress declared independence, there was still every possibility that they would become a monarchy. That was not decided until the Constitutional Convention. It was the Continental Congress with a variety of different states, and then they figured it out.
Well, then you'd have to do another referendum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
Okay.
I think you would.
Okay, so yes or no? Yeah. Look, then you have a referendum with specific plans. This is what we're going to do here, involving everything, because it's quite complicated to become your own country, I imagine. And I don't want a bunch of people that have no idea what they're doing in charge of it if I'm going to vote for independence. So I would think that there would be some platforms put forward during the campaign saying, okay, this is what we would do if we were in charge in terms of agriculture or something like that, or even just cross-border business with BC. What's going to happen to BC wines if an independent power comes into Alberta?
But it's all
Right?
speculative. I think you'd first vote on independence, and then you'd have to have a constitutional convention. They write a constitution, and then that constitution's put to the people for ratification. That's the way the United States did it after independence. I think that's a generally responsible way to do it. The founding father, the Continental Congress didn't sit around and devise 3 orders of government, and they have the Senate, they have the House, they have the judiciary, and the president. They didn't figure that out until after independence was achieved. I think it would be similar if it goes down this way.
Well, you may be right, but the point when people who aren't into this stuff the way we are come to be asked, they'll say, well, I don't know what I'm voting for. Yes, I don't like Ottawa, and I think equalization is a terrible thing, and I don't like the attitude from some of the people down east. But, what's this going to look like? Will I still have my count of the pension plan? The answer is yes, you should. But,
that's
people don't know that. They want certainty on all of those.
Well, those things have easy answers. Those are policy questions. They're not fundamental constitutional questions. Fundamental constitutional questions. That's a whole other problem.
Who am I voting for here?
Yeah. Well, technically, you still have the same game.
I'm just saying, getting back to kind of where we began with this, they can get away with it for a while with having a number of voices because the goal is just getting the signatures on a petition to get a referendum going. But when they move past the petitioning portion, that's into the real campaign, and they're going to have a centralized figure, a face speaking for the movement, because you can't have mixed messaging starting to come out, or people won't vote. As Dave said, well, is it this? Is it this? You need sort of one voice who's going to say, this is where we're coming from with it. And we've seen, as was kind of referred to, and I'll mention names, we had Jeff Rath said something that stirred a bunch of people up. And then a statement came out backed by Mitch Sylvester saying, well, Jeff, when he tweets, is speaking for Jeff. He's not speaking for the movement. And then Jeff recently says, I'm down in the United States and I'm negotiating a $500 billion line of credit with the USA. Where on earth did that come from? And that's just kind of fallen by the wayside. They're not going to win a campaign if they got to keep correcting and going back and forth. As was said, I think once the petitioning phase is over, some sort of convention has to be held. It's uncharted territory, so that's what makes it difficult. As Derek said, when you have a premier doing it, it's a natural position in Quebec, but we don't have that. They're going to have to select somebody who's at least the official spokesperson, the one who's going to speak for the movement when it comes to these things. And you still have other voices contributing, but right now you've got a number of names and nobody really kind of taking that authority and responsibility. And I think human nature still says, even though they're voting on a concept rather than a party or a person, they want to see one figure, one person as the voice speaking to this. And they just don't have that yet. I think they can get away with it a little longer. But once it moves into the referendum campaign stage versus the petitioning stage, it's going to have to change. And it's up to the leadership, I guess, of those guys to figure out how they're going to do that.
So, well, let's bring it back then to what I was getting at a little bit earlier. Who is spokesman for the Federalists, the no side of the referendum? Thomas Lukaszuk wants the job. I don't think many on that side want him to be their spokesman, but for sure. Well, Nick Nenshi will want the job. In Quebec, you would have a PQ premier, which is the official yes guy. Then the no side would be a combination of federal liberals, federal conservatives, but generally led by the provincial liberals, the leader of the opposition. That's traditionally it, but this is not a premier versus opposition leader thing anymore. Nenshi would probably want the job. It would appear to me Jason Kenney wants the job. It's kind of a way to get himself back out into the public. I'll put it to any of you. Who do you think are the leading contenders to lead the no campaign, the Federalist side?
I'm not sure there's the same necessity for somebody to personally represent that side of the campaign. All I'm going to say is I just don't want any change. Nobody needs to articulate that for me. The people who do need to have a leader, we've just spent 20 minutes on it, is the independent side. Yeah, they've got to have a focal point. But if anybody can go out there, and you mentioned 3 people who are all keen to do so, and say, yeah, we just shouldn't change anything. We should stay part of Canada. Doesn't need to come together as one critical point. So you've got these two opposites going head to head. You have somebody who's very driven on the independent side. We would like somebody very driven on the independent side, just pushing against the stodge of everything going on, just as it has ever been.
I agree that it's not as critical. The status quo side is stronger. They've got much more institutional support, and they've got several obvious potential.
Like nothing's going to change. So
yeah. But I don't know. But they're still going to have to pick someone. That's the way the rules work. There's going to be a yes committee. There's a no committee. There's going to be a leader on the other side. Who do you guys think are the obvious guys? Any names beyond what I've said?
I don't think so, really, to be completely honest. I've been just thinking, like, you guys have more about the independence movement. They need a charismatic leader that people can actually look to see what they have to say. So maybe Cory should get out of the desert and step up then, maybe.
He's already ruled that out.
No. Not a chance. Another name to bring up, though, who we haven't and who's been kind of quiet on this so far is Mark Carney. You're the prime minister of this country with a budding independence movement within it. And I don't know about so much coming in opposition to the independence movement, because that would probably just inflame it further. But something of an approach trying to, reach out to Albertans and say, guys, I think this isn't the route you should go. This is why the future is bright with not going that path. The thing that we've seen a lot in this so far was the difference in attitude. In 1995, when again, everybody was saying, please, Quebec, please don't go. Right now, the Federalist forces are saying you aren't allowed to go, or you're rednecks if you want to go, or you're selfish if you want to go. That attitude's pretty different, which is fine as an independent supporter, because I think that only helps build the base. But as a national leader, Mark Carney has got a bit of a responsibility then to quell this movement, to convince Albertans why this isn't the path they want to go. And so far, he's held his tongue on this. So we'll see if he comes out more vocally and trying to make that case for why the status quo should be maintained, because he hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah. Ironically, he's in a meeting this afternoon with David Eby and Daniel Smith.
Yeah.
And I think the topic of discussions will be pipelines.
I would assume so.
If we get a pipeline going, before the end of the year, I think that would kill off any independence vote.
Possibly.
Because I mean, that would end the Ottawa's against us. Ottawa hates us. It would have to come along with the lifting of the tanker ban and stuff like that. But Danielle Smith seems to be happier with Carney than she was with Trudeau. And she's sort of saying, I know what's going on behind the scenes. Let's let this process play out. So I think she's very optimistic that she's going to get a pipeline approval by the fall. And if that is the case, I think that's going to take a good chunk of wind out of the sails of the independence movement.
Just to make sure, Mr. Carney is pushing ahead with the gun grab, so that if Alberta does vote for independence, it will be a disarmed Alberta, he would hope.
Yes. Well, I don't think they're getting many calls from Alberta to say, here's my gun.
Yeah. I know during the 1995 Quebec referendum, there was a Quebecer as Prime Minister, Jean Chrétien, and the yes side generally tried to keep him at arm's length because they didn't like the perception of federal politicians intervening. He did intervene somewhat, but it was gentle. I know he'll try to portray himself as an Albertan. If you haven't lived here in a better part of half a century, I think you lose your Alberta card at some point. But one to watch, and I would not be surprised at all to see some nod to it at the convention this weekend, is Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre is born and raised Alberta. He spent the majority of his life and his entire adult life in Ontario, in Ottawa. But he's still born and raised out here, has a lot of support out here, and since he lost the seat in Ottawa and ran a by-election in Battle River Crowfoot, he now represents an Alberta constituency. That is someone who is not going to be able politically to stay silent. I'm not sure how aggressively he'd be here campaigning or not. But that would he'd be a powerful weapon on the Federalist side. Because the independence movement in Alberta is almost uniformly a phenomenon of the right. It's a right wing and it's a center right thing. There's not really any notable lefties of any number who support independence. So I would keep my ears open this weekend for him to mention in his speech, like, I understand the frustrations. He'll say something like that. But leaving is not the way to go. The way to go is to vote for me, and I'll fix everything. It'll be great. You'll probably see. I'd be surprised actually if we didn't see something along those lines come from him.
Interestingly, though, he's said he's not going to run again in Alberta already. He just got into power, and then the Conservative Party's already said, nope, he's running somewhere else.
Well, he's had to give his seat back to Damien Kerr.
Yeah, exactly. So he won't be a sitting. He won't be a future Alberta MP after the next.
But during the likely coming referendum, he will be, and there's no way that the leader of the opposition with an Alberta seat is going to be quiet on that. He's going to be campaigning on the other side. Okay. Well, we'll then go to our parting shots. Let's start with Dave.
Well, the final bill is in for the great ostrich massacre of 2024 in British Columbia. A total of $6.1 million, Nigel, to have 6.1 million.
How much per bird is that?
Yeah, it's a lot, but they apparently ate a lot of hay in the time that they were under.
They fed them while they.
Yeah, they wanted to be well fed when they were
like the last
slaughtered.
meal on death row.
Yeah,
So they all wanted steak.
so 6.1 million. That could have helped a lot of the poor families in the country.
I mean, a book would help more poor families if they had. I mean, I'm just totally against this anyway. But if you're going to kill them, at least get them on the dinner plate, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, exactly. Feed the homeless.
Yeah.
Nigel.
So I'm just delighted to learn that we're now getting into the days before our return to the moon. NASA's Artemis 2 expedition supposed to take off between now and February the 6th. The astronauts have entered the room that is like a quarantine, so everybody gets a cold before they leave. We got one Canadian aboard. This is Speaking of somebody kind of stayed up late watching the moon landings in 1973, first shot around the moon in 68 and all that sort of thing. The moon landings in 69 and the subsequent Skylab and all that went with it. And then they stopped doing it. You know, the great adventure became sending remote control
That's because we
vehicles
never went.
around in the solar.
That's because it was recorded in the desert.
Until now, you had no. But anyway, this is why the Western standards. You know. Anyway, great. Go guys. Go Foley. Where we
We're going for the first time now.
If you're interested, David did an in-depth story on it yesterday. It's on our website. Give you all the details.
All right, this morning. Yeah.
Thank you. David, your first parting shot.
Oh, well, I don't really have one, but the gun grab's annoying me again the whole program because yet again I saw that there is another police department in Ontario that's saying that they're not going to have anything to do with this. So when are the Liberals going to wake up that even people in Ontario, Liberal powerhouse Ontario, want nothing to do with the gun grab program? And how much more money are they going to spend on this?
Lots and lots.
Spend money until
It's already down to $500 million, I think, if I remember correctly what the numbers are.
This is funny. It's like a stick up, except we have the guns.
Basically, yeah.
Give us your guns. No. Yeah, this is an odd stick up, isn't it? Okay. Cory, your parting shot?
Well, just desperately seeking political and moral courage on medical assistance and dying. It's just the stories are really coming out now. You know, a woman, it sounds like, possibly put to death against her will because of caregiver fatigue. Another one now we hear of obesity. You know, I do believe perhaps people in a case with extreme circumstances and pain can make a decision to go with dignity at a time of their choosing. But it's clear that Maid's gone totally off the rails and out of control with whatever the original intents were. And nobody's got the courage to hit the brakes on this thing and say, let's get this back in order for what it was supposed to be meant for. So I don't want to read about any more of these stories. Let's get on our politicians' case to say, hey, speak up on this, because this is really reprehensible.
And that's disappointing.
Do you have anything else to add to your parting shot?
I know you want me to jump in that pool.
Yes, come on!
And I'm just not going to do it for the sake of my gracious hosts who have to pay to have it cleaned. You know, I mean, I'm just not dressed for the event.
Just so all our viewers know, Cory Morgan is above bribery. I offered him money before we started the show when we were off air. I offered him money.
Not enough.
I don't know, obviously. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so maybe he still has a price. Maybe he has a price and I'm just too cheap. So
Name your price, Cory.
Oh, I just don't have one at this point. I wish
everyone has a price. Everyone's got a price. If I said $1,000, I bet you would have.
Yeah, $1,000 I would, but I know you're not going to do that. So
No.
we'll get an AI image of me for the next show or something. Or
There we go.
I'll put myself in a spot where I'm not imposing as much.
Well, but now it's gonna be AI of you in a Speedo.
Yeah, well, there's something to look forward to.
There we go. Okay, ladies, make sure you get the 2026 Western Standard calendar, swimsuit calendar. My parting shot. I mentioned the Ontario PC convention and the timing of that has some impact, I think, on how the vote will go with the National Conservative Convention taking place in Calgary. But very interestingly, our new Ontario legislative reporter, we've got Jeremy. He tells us that the Ontario PCs have banned the media from covering their convention. Now, it's not the first political party to ever do it. I know it's happened in Alberta before, and I think it was it Tom Korski who of Blacklocks who snuck in?
Yes, we snuck into the kitchen and listened to literally a glass on the door.
Yeah. So, guys, you could it says Ralph Klein tried it and failed in the 90s because an intrepid reporter put a glass against the door and listened in on the whole thing. You've got thousands of people at this thing, all with recording devices in their pockets. You're not going to keep anything secret. I don't know what Doug Ford's trying to do. The Ontario PC Party is the shittiest political party in the country. It is the most vanilla of vanilla parties whenever you want to know. Forget whatever they vote on in policy resolutions. Whatever they're going to do is whatever the polls say they should do. Whatever is going to make give Doug Ford a 1% bump in the polls that day. That's what they're going to do. I don't know what the hell they're trying to hide. Anyway, we wouldn't be the Western Standard if we took no for an answer. So stay tuned. All right, gentlemen. Nigel, David, Dave, and Mr. Sunshine. Thank you very much. And John on the studio, thank you very much. Thank all of you for joining us today. Remember, the Western Standard is only $10 a month or $100 a year for unlimited access to all Western Standard content. Get you past the pesky paywall so you can read us with your morning constitutional. Thank you very much for joining us today, and God bless.